Do we have too much government?
We need to put people ahead of corporate profits.
This system is so lopsided. This threat is a real threat to democracy.
And I think that's really important. That's something we haven't been doing in this country for a long time.
Where do you start? What do you do? How do you do it?
Access to Democracy and other Eagan community television programming is supported by Thomson Reuters, makers of Westlaw Next and based in Eagan. Through Westlaw Next and other innovative online services, Thomson Reuters is the world's leading source of intelligent information for businesses and professionals. Online at thomsonreuters.com. And by U.S. Federal Credit Union, the member-owned financial institution offering service, value, and experience you can trust to the greater Twin Cities community.
Welcome to Access to Democracy. Nice to be back with you. I'm Alan Miller, and we're with a return guest, very interesting and informative, John Steeves, who is one of the doctors at TRIA Orthopedics. And I have to make an admission. There are 40 orthopedic doctors or more at TRIA, and because I am so graceful, I've used at least 3 or 4 of them now, including John, as I break my bones and things like that. But welcome back.
Thank you. It's very nice to be back. Thanks for having me.
You got the best job in the world. You go down to spring training for 3 weeks because you've been the team doctor for the Twins for how long?
I'm starting my 26th year of being a team orthopedist for the Twins, and so
obviously they are satisfied with what they see.
It's been a lot of fun, and I've been through several general managers, and of course the owners have stayed the same, and so I've been able to keep my job over those years. And
is there something you can do to strengthen their arms so that we get some more balls into the stands?
Yeah, it's a good question you ask. I was in spring training and I was worried about our hitting. I was worried about the batters and what we would have for an offensive production. And with the addition of some pitchers, I didn't think the pitching was going to be an issue. And of course, that has not played out that way. It's been the reverse, of what we thought. But we've got some good pitchers, and in season it's hard to strengthen them. It's what we try to do is keep them from breaking down.
Now let's back up to how you got into medicine and then into orthopedics.
Well, there are several influences. I grew up in Rochester, Minnesota, and my father was not a physician, but I grew up in Rochester with several friends whose fathers were physicians at the Mayo Clinic, and the Mayo Clinic was quite an influence in my decision to go into medicine. And so I went away to college and then came back to the University of Minnesota Medical School, and I've always loved sports and participated in sports and been a fan. And so as I chose a specialty in medicine, orthopedics and then eventually sports medicine was what I gravitated to. And so I trained at the university and joined a group 30 years ago almost called Orthopedic Consultants, and as part of our group we took care of the pro teams in town. Dr. Harvey O'Phelan, my predecessor with the Twins, was one of my senior partners, and I got to assist him, and eventually over time as he retired I was able to obtain the job taking care of the Twins, and literally that was 26 years ago, so it's been a fun ride.
Now, how did TRIA come about? Because it's unusual. You have an incredible facility there. I call it Bloomington, although your address is Minneapolis, but it's right there on 494 in France. And it's a huge building that practically is a hospital. You can do certainly surgery there. You have even, I think, some inpatient facilities there, and a lot of outpatient. How did that come about?
Most of our practice is outpatient, and we focus on the musculoskeletal system orthopedics, and so we have orthopedic surgeons who are part of the practice. We have primary care physicians who focus on sports medicine, taking care of musculoskeletal injuries. We have an acute injury clinic where people can walk in off the street with a sprain or a fracture, or yes, and they can come back as you have multiple times. But we wanted to put together a single specialty clinic, in other words, focusing on orthopedics. And so this is a project that probably started in 2002. It had been hatched as an idea for a number of years, and TRIA opened in 2005 as a joint venture between the University of Minnesota Department of Orthopedics, Park Nicollet Medical Center, and then my private practice group. And so we wanted to have a facility where you could come in and pretty much get your orthopedic needs addressed. The only thing we really don't have, haven't had, is inpatient care for our patients, but we have been able to do cases which we used to do in the hospital, and we have a TRIA Hilton program where we send total knees, total joints, total hips across the street to recover at the Hilton instead of being in the hospital. And so it has, as Ellen, as you've noted, it really is a one-stop facility with imaging, MRIs,
It's
X-rays.
really, I was going to say that state of the art. I mean, the equipment there and the people who utilize it are really, really.
Yeah, we're very proud
Top
of the concept, and we introduced the concept of a walk-in clinic for orthopedics to the Twin City area. And there have been, several of the other orthopedic groups in town have mimicked that a little bit, and so we're not unique anymore in that. But we're the first to bring the ability, instead of going to the emergency room, if you have an orthopedic problem, you walk in and are treated initially for your orthopedic injury by our acute injury doctors. And if you need surgery, then they will triage, send you on to an orthopedic surgeon to assess your injury and assess your need for surgery and things. So
And
it
does the
works
name-
terrifically well.
The name TRIA, is that really short for triage?
It really wasn't. I think there's a lot of controversy. I mean, I was there at the beginning, but there's a lot of controversy about that, and people come up with ideas. And TRIA, it was a joint venture of 3 entities, and so, but it really didn't have any initial association with triage. That was something that came to the table a little bit later. After we had been there, that was in our original concept, but the acute injury walk-in clinic has evolved over the last 5 to 7 years of time, and it's, I don't know if I know the exact etiology of TRIA and why we call it TRIA. It doesn't have any particular significance.
As you walk around these modern walls, you see athletes from just about every professional team in Minnesota. And if I'm not mistaken, you are also the orthopedic doctors for the Timberwolves, the Vikings, the Lynx, the Wild.
Yes.
Obviously, the work that you people did enabled the Wild to win 2-1 last night and even up that series, as well as the Twins. So you really cover all the pro teams.
So my group of 6 or 7 orthopedic surgeons historically have taken care of all of the pro teams in town and some of the colleges, and we assist in taking care of several of the city schools, the city high schools. And so we have done, as I noted, taken care of the Twins for 26 years, and my associates, my partners who take care of some of the other teams, we've been doing that ever since the Timberwolves came to town, ever since, well, for sure since the Wild, North Stars came, or the Wild came back after leaving as the North Stars, and then the Vikings. One of my partners, Dave Fisher, prior to my even going into orthopedics, was taking care of the Vikings years ago. So we've kind of hung on to those associations, and we've prided ourselves in taking care of professional athletes, college athletes, high school athletes, and recreational athletes.
Geriatric athletes.
And geriatric athletes. I mean, it's, we try to bring the same expertise to all those patients and all those people. And obviously, there's a difference in taking care of a pro athlete in terms of access that they have to rehabilitation and assistance in recovering from injuries. But the concepts and the principles that we apply for taking care of all those athletes are the same. And so, yeah, we pride ourselves on taking care of the pro teams, but I don't really, and my partners don't really make a living taking care of the pro teams. Our living in orthopedics and our practice is taking care of normal patients in our from adolescent, from kids all the way to the geriatric patient.
And I know you get a lot of referrals also from other doctors when they need specialists.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's not the docs who take care of the pro teams are there, but we have most of the subspecialties of orthopedics represented at TRIA, and so my colleagues and partners take care of pretty much the whole spectrum of orthopedics, and we bring expertise from the University of Minnesota and some of the experts and doctors from the University of Minnesota, and then also orthopedists and other physicians, the primary care physicians from the Park Nicollet system.
And some of your doctors also have taught at the University of Minnesota.
Yes, we sure have. We have clinical appointments, so we educate right now, University of Minnesota orthopedic residents, and we have a fellowship that we educate sports medicine fellows. They come and spend a year with us, and we have medical students who come through TRIA and get orthopedic experience, and high school students who come and spend time in a preceptorship with us.
In fact, when I was there not too long ago, I just happened to see you passing in the hall, and you were leading around a young man in a suit jacket, and I suspect that you were interviewing him, whether he was going to come on board or not.
Yes, we actually were, and so that was an interview process for our fellowship. And one of our missions and roles not only is to take care of orthopedic problems and be good and be expert at that, but also education is an incredible part of TRIA, giving back and educating a whole spectrum. And our primary care doctors who work at TRIA, who have an interest in sports medicine, help educate primary care physicians through TRIA. We have a huge physical therapy department that has physical therapy students. So orthopedics, taking care of people, and education are our primary missions.
And obviously, you've seen changes in 26 years that you've been with the Twins, changes in the practice of medicine. What are some of the things that are innovative now that you couldn't have imagined then?
Well, I think that in my 30 years in practice, when I first started, arthroscopic techniques were just coming into play. Ability to do surgeries with the aid of an arthroscope and look inside all the various joints, that was in its infancy, and I learned that as I was trained, and that has evolved enormously. Our ability to do things arthroscopically and not have to make open incisions and full incisions for different shoulder surgeries and knee surgeries and everything.
Simplified medicine to a large degree.
Well, simplified and less traumatic to the patient, and that improves recovery and everything. And so that growth of arthroscopy in my time in orthopedics has been unbelievable, our ability to do that. And we are moving more and more towards outpatient orthopedics, as I had alluded to before. That's been a big change. It would never have been conceived in my mind when I first started, or anybody's, that we could do a total knee arthroplasty, or replace a knee, and have a patient stay overnight over at the Hilton across the street and not have to stay in the hospital. When I started, there were inpatients, total joints, total knees and hips, that spent a week in the hospital, week 10 days. Now, if a patient has to be hospitalized because of medical problems, they'll spend 3 days in the hospital, and they usually, if we can do their case at TRIA and send them over the Hilton, they spend 2 days and then go home after that. And that has become the norm in the cities. We're not the only one doing that now. We, I think, pioneered that and have refined it. But to do that, I think with the cost of medicine, and there's a significant move to try to do as much as we can outside of hospitals because of the costs. Do it outpatient and save some of the costs of inpatient care.
Now, I noticed, and as I do with each case, each interview, I do some research, that you have more degrees than a thermometer. So let's talk about some of the degrees that you have.
Well, I don't think I have an inordinate amount of degrees.
Member of societies, the American Society for Orthopedic Medicine.
I received a college degree out at Caltech in California, and then I did my medical training and an MD degree from the University of Minnesota, and then board-certified orthopedic surgeon. And then as part of our practice in orthopedics, most of us belong to various societies, which are groups of physicians who practice similar practices. So the American Orthopedic Society, Orthopedic Society is one of those. American Sports Medicine, AOSSM, which is American Orthopedic Society for Sports Medicine. I belong to Orthopedic Foot and Ankle Society.
I've noticed these societies generally have their annual convention in great spots.
It's like going to
Maui or
it's like going to spring training. It's a perk of attending these. A lot of the meetings occur through the winter and are done in warmer spots, but they have to be in cities that can accommodate, especially for like the American Association of Orthopedic Surgeons, American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons. There are 20,000 members, and so we have to go to a community that can accommodate 10,000 people plus all the reps that come. And so a lot of times they are in warmer climates so that people can bring their family, and when you're not at the meeting can do other things. But I belong to local societies, Minnesota Orthopedic Society and American Medical Association, and I guess there are a few if I look at that list. I try not to look at my resume.
Now, when you're down at spring training and you were for 3 weeks, it's not all fun and games, though. You're not just sitting there and watching. So give us a little bit of the routine.
My partners would tell you that I just go to spring training to golf.
Okay.
And that's my excuse to get to Florida and Fort Myers, Florida, and while I'm down there I golf. And actually, when I'm down there, my day consists of going over the ballpark at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. I evaluate players who may have gotten hurt the day before or follow up on somebody who has an injury. I'm there available to see somebody. The players go out to the field usually around 9:30, and will practice even before a game. They will do practice on the days that they're playing a game. And so I stay at the ballpark during that period of time. There are usually games in the afternoon, 1 till 4 o'clock, and so my day ends at 4:30. And I'm usually at the ballpark once they start playing intensive games from 7:30 till 4:30 in the afternoon. And I can leave, and baseball isn't like a lot of the other sports where there's a high injury rate and I have to be available because somebody's getting hurt every 15, 20 minutes. But when I'm down there, I'm on call for the ball club 24 hours a day in case something happens. We've had athletes get in car accidents and other things that happen normally to a population of young males.
And somebody is at the Twins games also, be it
Right.
you or somebody else.
Yeah, and you know my schedule
home
because we've
games.
talked about this before, but Major League Baseball requires that the home team provide a internist or a medical doctor plus an orthopedist for the home team, the visiting team, take care of the umpires, the coaches and managers. I'm not responsible for what happens in the stands. If somebody gets hit in the stands, they have medical care for that. But somebody is on site for 81 home games. And of course, running an orthopedic practice and making a living doing orthopedics away from the Twins doesn't allow me to travel with them. So we just are responsible for home games. But it's still a significant, it kind of was a burden when we were in the Metrodome. It's not a burden at Target Field anymore.
No, I guess so. And the equipment at Target Field. And
Target Field is amazing.
the
And
rehabilitation equipment there is really
and
wonderful.
all the facilities, you're absolutely right. The facilities for the ball players, the weight workout rooms, the rehab tubs and hot tubs and cold whirlpools and things are state of the art. Target Field is one of the nicer fields in Major League Baseball. And so, but it's nice to sit outdoors and look back towards downtown Minneapolis while you're watching a baseball game. And so I'm a fan as well as a physician for them, so sometimes my being a fan gets in the way of my taking care of them.
I doubt that very seriously.
When they're on the road, I'm not happy about watching when I'm watching the TV sometimes.
What happened to Arcia? We had this great young phenom, Oswaldo Arcia, and he has yet to play this year.
Well, you know, he hurt his wrist. He was no single injury, but he swings hard and likes to swing a lot in the cage and in batting practice, and just sustained an injury to one of the tendons in his wrist, and it's been slow to come back and to heal. He's actually very much on the road to recovery. It'll be, I think, within the next week he'll be playing. And so just an overuse, and Willingham actually had as you know, the papers have said, and I know he had a little fracture of one of the bones in his wrist. And so I think he's going to take a little bit longer time because he got hit by a baseball in his wrist and actually cracked a
92
small bone.
miles an hour.
Yeah. And so initially it looked like it was more a bruise and just continued to hurt him. And so we did some further studies and realized that he had a crack of one of the bones in his wrist. And that's going to take some time to heal, and it will heal fine, but it's not what you want at the start of a season for your couple of your top sluggers to be out with injuries.
Especially because he's not the young phenom anymore, he's the old phenom.
Well, you know, and he had an injury last year and missed the last part of the season, and he didn't, you know, he struggled a little bit in spring training, getting his timing back, and just at the end of spring training the last week, and as he started the season, he was back to the Josh Willingham we all hoped he would be, and so he'll get back there again, I think. He's not done yet. He's still relatively young for a baseball player, and I think he's still got some years in him, and it's just a matter of repetition and getting the timing back. It's just it's amazing to me that these guys do what they do with a baseball thrown at them 95 miles an hour.
For sure.
So.
And sometimes hit them at 95 miles an hour. I've seen a couple of them lately.
Absolutely.
Now you don't handle the Wild, right?
I don't. One of my partners does.
Because we had an ugly injury there the other night.
Right. I've seen that in replay, but I really wasn't watching it and don't know anything about it.
It didn't look to me to be intentional, but it's still an ugly injury whether it was or not on the opposing team.
Yeah, and there's a lot of controversy about that because of the player, and one of my partners takes care of the Wild, and we had a little discussion, and he just said this player has been a model player for the Wild, and it's unfortunate because of his previous reputation that people are thinking so badly of him, because Dr. Boyd, my partner, just said that through the season he's really cleaned his act up, and now it doesn't look like he has, which is unfortunate. It's unfortunate. He was very, very contrite about it and very much said that it was unintentional, but people don't believe that because of his reputation, I think.
You have a kid, and he's 14, 15 years of age, and he can throw really a fast pitch. And now he wants to start throwing curveballs and pitch for the high school team. What's your recommendation for teenagers as to when it's appropriate for them? Because so many of them seem to get injured when they're in their 20s.
There's a lot of controversy about that, Alan, and I don't know that anybody has the full right answer, but we really, really try to counsel our young players to limit the number of pitches that they pitch. They may pitch 2 or 3 times in a week and throw 60, 80, 100 pitches each time, which is way too much pitching, whether it's fastball or curveball or whatever. Pitching too much, pitching year-round, pitching in showcases where they're trying to show off their stuff. Now that's more the 16, 18-year-old kids trying to get college scholarships, but it's the amount of throwing that they do. And then, to your point, I try to counsel the kids to not be throwing a bunch of curveballs when they're young. If a kid can get by with good control and a good fastball and maybe a changeup, which is just a change of speed pitch, instead of throwing curveballs or sliders especially, I try to encourage them not to do that until they're further along into high school and into college. But that doesn't happen. I mean,
So many of these high school phenoms fade either in college or when they get to college or between college and the
or
pros.
even, I mean, we've drafted a bunch of kids who look like they were going to be, terrific pitchers for us, and you can't predict. There's no way to adequately predict the wear and tear that they've had over the years and what's going to happen with them. And we've had our fair share of Tommy John injuries and ulnar collateral ligament tears that are out of the blue. When we draft the kids, we try to screen them as best we can.
Just seems to me when you're throwing for speed and twisting your arm and the ligaments and all in there that you can't possibly. The body is just made to take so much.
Well, and the velocity that the stresses put on the elbow for pitching, and especially when the muscles of the forearm get tired and fatigued because of a lot of pitching, those stresses are nearly enough to cause failure of the ligaments and things. So repeatedly, if they're overthrowing too many pitches, it's a repetitive stress injury usually. And occasionally someone will tear their ligament acutely, but over time the forces are just below what's the level that creates injury. And so
To me, it's like stretching a rubber band, and you can only stretch it so far until it breaks.
those tissues are comprised of multiple fibers, and you start to see some shredding of those fibers like a rope, and suddenly can be failure. I mean, that's the best analogy I can make, but it's multiple reasons for that. But when I started doing this 25 years ago with the Twins, and for the first 10 years or so, I don't think we ever saw kids that we drafted who'd had elbow surgery, Tommy John surgery in high school. Rarely, incredibly rarely. Now, almost everyone that we look at in the draft has some shoulder or elbow injury, and I think the factors I talked about are contributing to it. And it wasn't that way. I mean, we had really good pitchers with high velocity 25 years ago, but the amount of stress they were putting, the amount of force was totally different.
Always a pleasure and an education to talk to Dr. John Steeves, and I highly recommend anybody to go over to TRIA and just look around because
very
it's such
kind, yeah.
a state-of-the-art facility, even has escalators and elevators for you, and a place to eat. And I can speak from my own experience as to the top-notch treatment you get there. And
Well, thank
we
you very
see what
kindly.
you do
It's-
for the
yeah.
Twins, so thank you.
It's unfortunate that you've had as much experience with us as you've had, Alan. But
It's called being a klutz. John, thanks so much.
where did the time go, Alan?
It goes so quickly.
Thank you.